So we can start. I already had the chance to ask Tom about the origins of Silent Skies, and he revealed that it all started with your cover of Missing You. So how did it happen that you decided to record this composition?
The actual cover that started this whole thing, it was the cover of Missing You. But the funny thing about that cover was that there was nothing inherently special about it. I was in conservatory, I was in university at the time. And just after class, I went to the school practice room and just put my phone down and, just played something for the phone camera. And there was no forethought about it. I didn't, do a good recording with, microphones and everything. There was nothing fancy about it. And I had been listening to that album, Hymns for the Broken, a lot that year. This was in fall 2014. And that album, it meant quite a lot to me. But I never could have dreamed that that cover, which now at this point is 9 years old, is would have started all of this. And I've done a lot of covers in my time. I don't do them so much anymore, but I used to do them quite a bit. And this was one of the least, well produced ones I had ever done. And I didn't expect Tom to even see it, much less have it provoke the start of this band that is now going on 3 albums and all kinds of, other stuff. So it's actually quite wild how
And
everything works out.
what was your reaction when you saw a message in your inbox from the leader of Evergrey with an offer to create something together?
I mean, I had to double check that it was real. I didn't believe that it was real at first, like just someone was pranking me or something. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like I have to do this. There's no question about it. I was still in university at the time. I was finishing my last year of university, and I didn't have any like credits to my name. I hadn't put out any real like albums for myself or anything, so I had no reputation to speak of. So it was quite amazing that he reached out to me, a college kid with no reputation and no releases, to make an album together. It speaks to his faith and his ability to trust fate, because he felt that fate had inspired him to write that message, and he trusted that. I later found out that he was actually nervous that I would say no, which was kind of funny. Like, there's no way in hell I would have said no. He's the singer of one of my favorite bands. But it's kind of funny that, on each side, we were nervous about this because we weren't friends. See, a lot of these kind of bands that start with two people coming together to make something new, they're friends, and it's like, yeah, maybe we should make some music together. But our friendship happened long after we started making music together. It just started right here, out of the blue. Let's make an album together. Not even, let's make some music together and see what happens. Let's make an album together from the very beginning. So there was certainly a bit of nervousness, especially on my part. I had never done anything legitimate before like that. I mean, I got my degree in music. I had been playing piano for 15 years at that point. I knew I was going to be a musician, but I didn't see that being the way it started. But I'm really thankful for how it turned out, because through Tom, not only has Silent Skies been, a beautiful thing in and of itself, but through Tom, I've made so many connections to other people. I mean, immediately after doing Silent Skies, I joined Redemption, which he was singing for. Like, so, just all these connections and all these things started happening, like opening the floodgates, and just, my career happened really, from that moment.
And Nectar was recorded almost. What changed from Nectar during the recording? Because from Dormant, because Nectar was the second. Because Tom said that the previous album was recorded entirely via Zoom. You worked a few hours on some compositions, then he works a few hours on some compositions. So what changed during the recording of Dormant?
In terms of our workflow together, that's actually, it was pretty similar this time around. I'd say as far as just the collaboration is concerned, one difference is that we were working closer than ever before, and we are working truly collaboratively more than ever before. Um, One big example being vocals and vocal melodies and lyrics. We worked together on those a lot more than we had before. Um, we would work on vocal melodies and chorus hooks together, and we would workshop lyrics, and I would tweak words, and we would make them, just right. So the process in terms of the collaboration was very similar to Nectar, but just more closely, done together. And as far as my own personal process, it was actually totally different because my personal process, I was working a lot more with hardware synthesizers, some of which you see behind me. Like that became a huge part of my workflow. So much of song creation and also the way songs would grow was done at these instruments and was inspired by these instruments. So that was different for me in one sense because I had never really worked that much with hardware synthesizers in the past. And now it became like a defining quality of the music. But I've always been inspired by instruments. Instruments have always been inspiring to me. Like on Nectar, I was very inspired by the felted grand piano that I was playing, which is the same piano I used to record this album. And I sit down at that piano and I put on the voice recorder on my iPhone, and 5 hours later, I can have a whole album done. That's how inspiring that instrument is. Like magic just happens when I sit at that instrument. But exploring instruments became a big theme of this album. And there are so many instruments and sound colors on Dormant that we'd never used before. We use guitars for the first time on this album. We use, on one song, I play shakuhachi, the Japanese wind instrument. I play mandolin on a song. Tom uses vocoder, vocal processing stuff for the first time. I use modular synth stuff for the first time. So it's all about finding fresh ways to express yourself and continue expressing the melancholy and the darkness that we've always expressed. But there are so many ways to articulate that and so many different ways for us to express ourselves as musicians. And this whole thing was just delving so deeply into all the different, exciting new ways that we could make Silent Skies music.
So the entire instrumental layer was laid down by you. Of course, expect the violin because it was played by Raphael, but the other instruments, the drums, the guitar, it was all you?
All the instruments were played by me except on the song Construct, Tom played the guitar part.
Oh,
and he wrote the guitar part as well, the clean guitar part that happens in the second chorus and beyond. He played that. But on all the other songs, I played guitar. I played a bit on that song too, so we both played guitar on that one. And then, as you point out, Raphael Weinrich Brown played the cellos in his most creative role, I would say, where on the first album, I wrote out scores and he essentially just played the scores. But on this third album, I only wrote out a couple parts. I wrote out the cellos and Light Up the Dark because I had a very specific arrangement in mind for that part. But I think aside from that, I just sent him the songs and said, whatever you listen to this and whatever you feel the song needs for you to contribute, do that. So it was a very creative process for him. And we were able to enjoy his creativity as a composer and as a musician more than we ever had before. So yeah, he played the strings, and Tom played the Construct guitars, but everything else was me. Yeah.
So was the idea to expand the musical layer of the music was from the beginning, or was it something that came out during the work on the new album?
I think that we had some slight preconceived notion that we wanted to get into synthesizer stuff a bit more. But really what happened was I just got stuff and messed around with it, and I followed my inspiration. And inspiration took me many different places that I didn't expect. And the whole thing throughout the whole process is we just tried to remain super open to whatever we felt inspired to do and trust our inspiration, trust what was exciting us. Because we didn't feel like there was much purpose in putting up a wall and saying, we won't do that. We want to do that, but we won't. That wasn't really a thing that ever entered our minds throughout the whole process. It was more like, we want to do this, so let's try it. Let's give it a whirl and see what happens. And all kinds of strange things happened as a result, man. All kinds of so odd things. Like one example, the song Dancing in the Dark," which is a Bruce Springsteen cover. I played recorder on it. I never in my life thought I'd play my recorders again after like elementary school, much less, on a Silent Skies album. But, let's try it. I have it. Why not? And so I plugged my recorder into my modular synths and just started warping the sound in all kinds of weird and interesting ways. And that became the primary ambient layer for Dancing in the Dark. And there are so many stories throughout the whole album of processes like that where just want to try something. It's what excites me. So let's do it. I had gotten the modular synths during COVID, or I guess towards the tail end of COVID. It became a kind of like way to relax that wasn't work oriented, because I have a personality defect where I don't have any hobbies. I play music. Music is my profession. It's my hobby. Music is pretty much everything to me. It's not healthy. I don't recommend it. But the modular synths became a way for me to have a hobby within music. And I was so excited by them that it was inevitable that they were going to kind of creep into what I was doing with Silent Skies. And the song, The Last on Earth, all of the ambient layers that are going throughout that whole song that you hear on the headphones swirling from ear to ear, was all done through the modular rig. So yeah, I guess it just came from being excited about stuff and trying it and not having any ideas about like, this doesn't work or don't do this. You're excited about this, but don't, We try to never think like that.
With previous albums, you've said that imperfection is perfection because you played from your head. But this time you revealed that the piano parts were played from charts. So why the difference?
The piano parts were played from charts because, it's an interesting process because our creativity has two phases, I would say. And this hasn't really been different in the past, but maybe it was more extreme this time around. And the first phase is super free-flowing and organic, and it happens very quickly. And we're coming up with ideas, and we ride the waves of inspiration. And songs happen really quickly in that phase. Like we go from nothing to what I would call a song super quickly. But the second half of the process is quite, I say laborious, but I don't mean that in a negative way because that makes it sound like it's like a chore or not pleasant. It's a labor of love is what it is, but we really obsess over every little detail and try to get every detail as perfect as possible. And by perfect, I don't necessarily mean that it sounds perfect or like it's played perfectly with no mistakes. It's more just that like, if we want to make things sound a certain way, we make them sound that way as best as we can. And that's more in the like production phase. Blending over into the mixing phase is the same way. The reason I played the piano with charts is actually because I wrote the piano parts super freeform, like I always do. And I went to my parents' house and played the felted grand piano, and I came up with, I think, 6 songs in a day. And it was very free-flowing and organic and improvising everything. And then I replayed all that stuff on the computer with software to have a MIDI of it. And then we would tweak the MIDI pretty exhaustively because we think so carefully about the vocals. And if Tom wants to sing a particular vocal melody and there's one piano note that is clashing with it, we need to be able to tweak that one note to make it work. All the pieces of the puzzle have to fit together. And our music is so naked and bare and intimate that if the puzzle pieces aren't fitting just right, you can hear it. You can hear the clashes and it's not nice. So we tweak all the parts very exactingly. And then having made all those tweaks, I went back to the piano and played the parts basically as I had improvised them a year prior, but with these tweaks that I'd done via MIDI to make everything just fit with the vocals perfectly. So it was almost trying to get the best of both worlds, to rely on that initial organic inspiration and then refine it in the box with software, and then take it back into the real domain with the felted piano and execute the ideas all over again, really. And you reintroduce a bit of imperfection in that stage because I'm human and I play from charts and I play them as well as I can, but I do things unpredictably sometimes. Sometimes if I don't change a note, I change how the note is played. In the software version, I played it all soft. And when I play it on the real piano, maybe I play a couple notes loud or I change the timing a little bit. And I reintroduce imperfection at the end of the process because we love when things are done by real people on real instruments. That's really important to us. So that's my long-winded answer to that.
And in the early version of the songs, you're the one laying down the vocals. So will we ever hear your voice on Silent Skies tracks?
I didn't do any like original like full vocals that like lead vocals, because when we chiseled out the vocals together, talking about the melodies and the hooks and everything, we would do them in real time, and basically we'd be on Zoom and I'd say like maybe we try this melody and I'd sing it, and then in real time he could sing it in his studio. And that's the magic of Zoom, is that I could make a suggestion and he can act on it immediately. If we're just sending MP3s to each other via email, that's not going to happen. There's going to be a lag time for me to listen, for him to listen to what I've done, process the ideas. Maybe we discuss them on Facebook Messenger, but we're typing everything and you miss things in communication, and it's a mess. That's how we did the first album. It was not a conducive way to creating art, to be honest. But now I can come up with an idea and sing it, and in 30 seconds he can try it out and we can hear, how does it actually sound when Tom sings it? How does it work? Do we need to tweak things because he's not me, So there aren't any versions where I'm singing any lead vocals, but I do sing a fair bit of harmonies on some songs. On the song Churches, by the end, I'm doing like 32 tracks of vocals that sit underneath his to just make it sound like not a choir, but like a layering effect, maybe Enya-ish, perhaps. We both really love Enya, and that's one concept of vocals that we think about a lot, is how she stacks things and arranges things in such a way that you hear the song, you never lose the song, but it's still very layered and ambient and ethereal at the same time.
When I was speaking with Tom, I asked him what makes you go along so well. And he said, we both know what it's like to slide into darkness and eventually break out of its embrace. So what did he mean by that?
It's not unique to the two of us to have mental health issues, because I would say that the vast majority of people, human beings, have something going on, because we lead very difficult lives, and some people have it harder than others. But not only do Tom and I have mental health demons, but we have relatively similar mental health demons, not the exact same struggles, but similar. And although he's about twice my age, we have some very similar life experiences to draw upon. A lot of the things that have happened to him that he's had to deal with are things that I've had to deal with as well. So when there's a lyrical concept at work, or even a musical concept that doesn't have words but has feeling, we understand these feelings in very similar ways. And that's something that I think drew us together way back in 2017 when he sent me the first message on Messenger to make an album together. He understood from my cover of Missing You that I understood Missing You. I understood what he was trying to say emotionally. And it's always been that way, that I feel that he and I understand what we're trying to say to each other emotionally and what we're trying to put into our music. Similar life experiences, similar feelings, similar experiences, similar perspectives, colored by the fact that we are different people and he is older than me, and he does have, you know, a family. He has kids. I don't have kids, and all of these things do make a big difference. But that's what makes Silent Skies interesting too, because we do have these differences, and we do sometimes see things a little differently. And same thing with music. He's been in Evergrey for over 25 years. That's his background. I come from classical music. I got a conservatory education in composition. That's my background. So we do kind of come from opposite ends, but we meet in the middle, and the tip of that triangle where we meet is our shared experiences and our shared, experiencing of what it means to be a human being.
And before we had the chance to know the first sounds from the new album, we've got covers. And the Trooper is very interesting because while the original focused on the chaos of the battle, you instead focus on its tragedy and senselessness. So same words but different emotions. Was that the intention?
Yeah, with all the covers, we're thinking about the emotions within the songs, and all three of the covers that we chose to do don't sound anything like us in terms of the instrumentation and the mood and the energy, but there is something emotional within these songs that we find captivating. I think with the case of the Trooper, it's very interesting that if you take out the powerful guitars and the huge harmonies and the sound of Bruce Dickinson's voice being so commanding and powerful, and you just look at Steve Harris's poetry, I mean, it's really beautiful words, and it's very tragic. And he manages to capture the nuances very well of like, he has these words and Bruce takes it in one direction and we take it in another direction, starting from the same starting point. But Bruce focuses on the power and the chaos and the intensity of the moment. And we focus, as you say, on the tragedy and the senselessness of what's going on. But the words are there. He wrote them very beautifully and very eloquently. And we just wanted to take away all the guitars and drums and stuff and rebuild it, in our own image, the way that we would have written the Trooper. If we had these lyrics and this melody and these chords, how would we have performed it if it was our own original song? And that's pretty much the exercise that we went through with all three of the covers, was to build these songs as our own and see if there's any additional emotional resonance that comes out as a result.
And you're gonna have a release party with the new album. So do you think about the live version of Silent Sky? Because it would be nice to hear this kind of music at some smaller, maybe intimate concert. Do you think about a tour maybe?
We've been thinking about live shows for so long now. I mean, I think going way back to 2019 was when we first had our conversations about what Silent Sky show would look like. And there's always been some various issue at first to maybe scheduling because he's so busy and I'm so busy. And then there was a pandemic, and then scheduling became a problem again. But now we have the extra hurdle of our arrangements have gotten so layered and so expansive. We're talking about songs that even the simple songs have, 60 to 70 tracks, and a song like The Real Me, I think, has like 140 tracks in the session. So in order to make this happen live without, with minimal use of backing track, well, obviously, we could just put a MacBook on stage and two people and, I guess it would work. But in order to do it justice with live players, we would need, a drummer and percussionist, a bass player and synth bass player, at least one guitar player, a keyboard player or two to supplement me. We need a string section, probably not even a single cello player, because we'd love to have Raph play the cello live, but he overdubs himself a lot. And I think on the song Dormant, he sent me 32 tracks of cellos. So like, there's going to require a lot of people to make this thing happen. It's going to turn into quite the ensemble. But all that being said, excuses aside, we really, really want to make this thing happen live. It's been a dream for a long time, and we keep talking about it. We keep, every now and then an offer comes up, and it's got to be the right offer. We have an added geographical challenge as well, which can make things a little difficult. But I think I'd say at this point, hopefully, in not too distant in the future, we'll be doing some stuff live. I mean, at least that's the hope.
You also work with Tom on video game soundtracks. So what does it look like to try to get in the right mood? Because you have such titles as World War Z or Evil Dead. Do you rewatch the movie? Does the game developers, in addition to the guidelines, send you any materials, screenshots, gameplay fragments?
It always the most content we can have is the best. I mean, sometimes it's not super helpful to watch the original films if they want to push the franchise in a slightly different direction, especially in terms of music. In the case of Evil Dead, we went from, a pretty, we went from their template of what the original scores sounded like, and we did push the synthetic realms a lot harder, and we tried to make things sound, more messed up and more twisted. So really, it always helps to have whatever information is possible, even just a brief synopsis, a brief screen capture. We've been working on a lot of games now where they send in progress screen captures, and maybe the graphics won't be fully rendered. It'll almost feel like a skeleton of the game, but it's very, very helpful to have things like that. And the great thing about working on the games is that it's so different, and it honestly keeps things very fresh for us. And when we come back to working on Silent Sky's music, we feel rejuvenated and we don't feel burned out on what we're doing because we're in our own universe for so long. And then with game scoring, we get to go into someone else's universe for a while. And instead of working on bringing our own universe to fruition, we're working on someone else's passion project and helping them bring their vision to life. Which is the same reason that I love being a producer for bands, is that you're working on someone else's vision and bringing their vision to life. But yeah, the game scoring thing is awesome. Right now we're very busy on a couple titles. We're currently finishing up the score for a game in the Warhammer franchise, Space Marine 2. So I don't know when that's coming out, but the music production process is wrapping up in a few weeks. So it's awesome. Every game is like its own universe. It has its own stylistic tropes. You fully immerse yourself in, for instance, Warhammer. What does Warhammer feel like? What is Warhammer? How do we make music that sounds like Warhammer? And that's awesome because I spend so much time in musically thinking about what do I want to do and what's my, where does my creative ADHD push me today? But the game scoring thing is completely different. It's a very different kind of mission, goal-oriented sort of way of making music.
Space Marine 2 is this third perspective shooter, right?
Sorry, you can say that again?
Space Marine 2 is this third person perspective shooter like Gears of War, right?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah. I mean, it's all I can say, man, it's a beautiful, beautiful game.
Yeah, because
mean,
I remember that I played the first one because I like Warhammer
it's almost like
franchise.
it's
And
quite old at this point, the
yeah,
first
and I
one.
went and I see
Been
the
quite some
trailer for the
years.
second one, and that's the game I'm gonna probably play because I love the Warhammer franchise.
Yeah, no, dude, they did an amazing job on this game. It's so visually stunning what they did. I feel like they really, no pun intended, really leveled up the whole presentation of everything. And there's so much music that's gone on. We're, co-composing alongside two other full-time composers just to do everything. There's so much music to be done. It's a rich story. It's an epic. By the time you finish it, you'll feel like you've, walked to Mordor or something. It's such a big thing. So yeah, we're really stoked to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna play it. And well, thank you for your time and have a great conversations. And well, that's all. So again, thank for your time. Have a good afternoon because it's what like 3 p.m.
Yeah, 3:30 here. Man, it's been great talking to you. I really appreciate the questions. Always a pleasure. So hopefully we can do it again sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Okay. So bye and have fun.
Have a great one, man. Take care.